I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody...
While the world worships image and numbers, one man stands alone, silently embracing his wounds. Taehyung, so beloved by millions of hearts around the world, once walked a dark hallway without a lamp. He didn't make a sound, but his silence echoed. He didn't cry in public, but his heart trembled with every song he sang. HYBE, which should have been a protective fortress, instead allowed it to slowly crack. Unfair decisions, unequal attention, and heartbreaking neglect became a daily occurrence that was silently swallowed. There was no embrace from the system, only the coldness of never-ending expectations. But amidst this injustice, Taehyung didn't choose to become bitter. He didn't let disappointment change his tender heart. He chose to love the world, even when it seemed to reject him. And there, his strength began to grow in unexpected ways. Many don't know what it's like to smile on stage when your heart is hurting. Many don't understand how hard it is to hide your disappointment from the spotlight. But Taehyung knew, and he endured it all, with a patience that was almost impossible to possess. He didn't respond with words. He responded with art. The songs he created became an outlet for his pain. Every melody was a piece of his soul. Every verse was a story he hadn't had the chance to tell. Music became the only place where he could be honest without fear of being misunderstood. Taehyung walked his own path, even if it wasn't paved with a red carpet. He wasn't the first choice, but he was still the most memorable. Because love can't be directed. He grew in a place of sincerity. And the world fell in love with that sincerity. When his agency showed cold partiality, the public began to see who truly shone for who they were. And that name was Taehyung. He didn't just survive, he thrived. Not because of pushback, but because of a passion that came from within. He didn't ask for sympathy. He didn't sell his suffering. But people felt the pain he silently endured. They felt the sorrow in his voice, the understanding in his smile. And because of that, they chose to love him even more deeply, not out of pity, but out of admiration. When justice seemed unjust, Taehyung proved that a pure heart could still shine. He didn't demand the world change its ways. He simply kept walking, and eventually, the world followed. He wasn't a man hungry for the spotlight, but when he stood, all eyes were transfixed. Not because of special effects, not because of artificial spotlights, but because his presence brought a warmth that no system could create. Taehyung taught that inspiration doesn't come from broadcasted greatness. Inspiration comes from simplicity lived with honesty. From the courage to love, even when not loved back by those who deserve it. Every small step he took resonated with countless souls. He was proof that even amidst an unfair system, one can still grow and give hope. He wasn't just a K-pop star. He was a living hope, walking amidst thousands of gazes seeking support. HYBE may have forgotten that humans are not tools of production. But Taehyung never forgot who he was. He remains the Taehyung who greeted the staff with a smile. He remains the V who sang a song through tears backstage. He remains the man who sees love as his compass. And that compass leads him to a wider place. More sincere. Higher. Not because it was carried, but because he deserved to be there. Because he refused to give up when all the reasons to quit were enough. The world is beginning to realize that Taehyung isn't part of anyone's strategy. He is a miracle born from the courage to be himself. He doesn't need false protection. He just needs space to breathe. And he created that space himself. Now, whenever his name is mentioned, people don't just remember his voice. They remember his struggle. They remember the fortitude he hid behind his beautiful shirts and perfect makeup. They remember that he continued to love the world, even when it made him cry in secret. And from that love, he built a bridge between himself and his fans. A bridge that no system could destroy. No agency could break. Because that bridge was built with tears, sincerity, and trust that isn't sold on the market. Taehyung doesn't wait for a calling to shine. He shines because his heart is honest. And in a world increasingly harsh and full of falsehoods, honesty is the rarest light. That's what makes him more than just an idol. He's a mirror. A mirror for those who have ever felt small. A mirror for those who feel inadequate. A mirror for anyone who has ever been betrayed by the system but still chooses not to give up. He is a sign that you can survive without losing your soft side. He has fallen, but he is not broken. He has been hurt, but he has not turned bitter. He continues to love, continues to create, and continues to believe that goodness will find its way. And he was right. The world now stands by his side. Taehyung never forced anyone to side with him. But the truth always finds a way. And the public now sees with clearer eyes, who loves from the heart, and who only loves when the cameras are rolling. He may not have received justice from the system. But he has received something greater, recognition from millions of hearts who know what pain is and choose to heal it together. Together with Taehyung, they build a smaller, more humane world. In a world that likes to silence, Taehyung continues to sing. In a world that is easy to scribble, he continues to draw. In a world that is quick to throw away, he continues to preserve. And because of that, his name will outlive all the contracts he ever signed. Now, he's not just the pride of one group. He's a global inspiration. Because his story is no longer about fame, but about the courage to fight injustice with kindness. He's a long breath that reminds the world to pause and feel. And anyone who loves him knows that loving Taehyung is never a wrong decision. Because that love isn't based on hype, but on truth. And that truth is what now elevates him far above those who once silenced him. He's become a voice for many who couldn't speak. He's become a home for many hearts that no longer believed. And above all, he's become an example that gentleness is never weakness, it's the truest form of strength. Now, it's not just fans who are speaking out. Many eyes are opening, retracing their tracks. They're beginning to realize that it's no coincidence that Taehyung is always there as a calming presence in every turmoil. He's not a mere extra in HYBE's larger story, he's the heart that beats in silence. In an entertainment world that easily labels and positions people as products, Taehyung remains a human being. He never fights back with noise. He fights back in a way only the truly brave can, with unbreakable gentleness. He represents someone who wasn't shaped by the system, but rather shaped himself within the system that tried to suppress him. He saw injustice not as an end in itself, but as fuel to fly higher, further, and more honestly. Many try to reduce his story to statistics and timelines. But for true fans, Taehyung is a living story. He is a constantly evolving plot, a character who develops not because of a contrived plot, but because of real, slow, and deep spiritual growth. Those who once worshipped him solely for his appearance now love him for his meaning. Because he has become more than just a facade. He has become the content, and that content touches the most human part of anyone who looks deeper. Taehyung has not only changed the way the world views himself, but also the way we view idols. He shows that behind the splendor, there's pressure. Behind the perfection, there's sacrifice. And behind the smile, there's a struggle that often goes unseen. All those who once doubted his courage are now silenced by the tangible evidence. He didn't rise because of agency pressure. He rose because people felt close to him. Because there's something about him that makes people want to persevere, believe, and love more deeply. He has become the voice of a generation that has long felt silenced. He symbolizes those who are loved not because they are tough, but because they remain gentle when the world forces them to change. He shows that perseverance is the quietest form of revolution. Behind the cameras that follow him everywhere, there's a look in his own eyes that never loses its way. He never loses his principles, even when everything around him begins to crumble. He never gives up, even when there's no one left to support him. The world now knows that true inspiration comes from wounds that are stitched together, from silence that keeps moving, and from love that remains given even when it's not reciprocated. Taehyung is all of that. He's not an image. He's a reality that needs no script. When the industry is too busy nurturing new stars, many forget those who quietly shine. But a light like Taehyung's can never fade. Because it comes from within, not from a spotlight. And that light now illuminates millions of hearts. He's become a home. A place people return to when the world feels too noisy. A place people find comfort in just his lyrics, his smile, or even his silence. Taehyung turns the stage into a hug. He turns concerts into acknowledgement that we're not alone. And perhaps that's what the world needs most today, not just a celebrity, but someone who understands. And Taehyung understands. He understands unspeakable pain. He understands loss of direction. And because of that, he's become more than an artist, he's become a healer. HYBE may continue to chase strategies, investments, and markets. But they've lost something they can't buy back, trust. And when the world chooses, they don't choose numbers. They choose who makes them feel most alive. And they choose Taehyung.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.
I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown, get in my way and to be put down.